This is Cali Anca from Gentle Awakening, and by the end of this video, you will become aware and you will understand what is the most important factor that we must pay attention to when it comes to personal evolution. Personal evolution is a relationship, is a process that happens throughout our life experiences, which inform us and they give us the container in which we get to build our opinions, our beliefs, and our feelings about ourselves. This relationship is the inner environment in which we soak in. It is the attitude we have towards ourselves. It is the feeling thought that arises together with the thought. This relationship is between the observer and the object of observation. It is not about who we are or what we are doing, but about how are we doing what we're doing. This attitude that we carry with ourselves is deeply important when it comes to creating the life that we want for ourselves. We cannot evolve with an old belief that we keep about ourselves. This attitude is the environment in which we basically grown. To realize your nature is to become fully aware of this attitude that you carry about yourself. This is so important. If we want to change something profoundly, if we want to experience transformation, if we want to go deeper into who we are, we must become aware of this attitude because this is like the channel through which we see life, is the filter we carry in our perception. It is highly important to be able to separate, to extract this attitude from what is happening into your life, because only like that you will create long lasting change. I will explain this. When it comes to creating reality, we receive information through our senses that reaches our perception, which has a filter that creates inner experience of life through emotions, through feelings, through thinking, through thoughts. There is also something that it's called the attitude or the feeling thought. There is the thought and there is the feeling that comes right after the thought. What I want you to become aware of is this attitude that you carry towards the happenings in your life. And I want to speak here about the general attitude that you carry towards your life. What is your general feeling thought about your life? Do you feel like life is something very hard? Or do you feel like something is so precious? Or do you feel like life is truly difficult? You have to struggle. What is the attitude, the general attitude that you carry over your life? What is your general belief about life? I will share about mine, and maybe that will be a bit easier to understand what I'm speaking about. Due to my life experiences, I adapted this attitude towards life that told me that life is quite sad, that life is a burden. Life is something that you must carry in your on your shoulders. So I had this kind of pessimistic attitude towards life. Like whatever was coming towards me, I was like, that's okay, doesn't matter, things are hard anyhow. I was having this kind of depressing feeling towards life. I was basically protecting myself from disappointment. And whatever was happening into my life, things like my partner writing me beautiful letters, I was feeling joy and excitement for like a second. But then I was taken over by this feeling of, oh, it doesn't matter anyhow because he will anyhow break up with me. A few years back, I was having my first client. I felt so much excitement for like 2 seconds, but very high excitement. And then again, this feeling came, who was saying the thoughts that were created were like, oh, it doesn't matter. After this session finishes, you have to look for another one again. or oh, it's just one client, what change that will bring. I cultivated this kind of attitude towards life, right? So I was having the conscious thoughts were very different. They were not aligned with the feeling that I had inside, this feeling thought, which is so important if you ever want to manifest something. This feeling thought, this attitude is the protection layer. How I like to imagine it is like the protection layer is like a bag, that a plastic bag, like I want to say fascia for whoever knows, that grows over the nervous system. So the nervous system is our little tiny baby, and this layer, this fascia, this plastic bag that just protects it, it's transparent, it's a bit humid, I imagine it, is this attitude, is the original protection that we carry with ourselves so that we get to live our lives. This is a very natural thing. Everyone develops an attitude. And the best thing about it is that it can be changed. And this is where important transformation happens, when we are finally able to change the attitude we have towards life instead of thoughts or instead of actions. It's not about what or who we are, it's about how we are doing what we're doing. To change this attitude, we must first become aware of it because it is our most intimate selves, is the most intimate identity we have built about ourselves. It is difficult to see it. This is the hardest part in my experience, to be able to see it and to separate it. This is the attitude you have towards something. This is a thought that you have towards something. This is your feeling that you have towards something. I want us to bring in our attention today the general attitude, the feeling thought that we have towards life. When this becomes available to be separated by the actions, by the words, by the thoughts, by the feelings, it's very important to separate all them so that we can construct back ourselves. I love to work with deconstruction and construction. We separate this, we look at the attitude only. Is this inner feeling? And it's a feeling, it's a creates a physiological, that's why it's a physiological response. That's why I brought the topic of the nervous system, because it grows on you and it stays there, and it's so hard to see it. As we learn to see it, as we separate the attitude, we then get to have the option of changing it. When I've started to see the attitude of pessimism that I had towards life, I've started to wonder if this is the truth of who I am. The answer for me was no. And I had to look at how do I respond to life. I had to bring more awareness into my daily life to see how I respond to it. What does my action, my word, my thought come from? Where does it come from? It comes from this attitude, from this false self, or it comes in authenticity? It comes from who am I? And it's a journey that I'm going through still, and I find it so crucial to be able to understand and to realize that right now I'm responding from my attitude. So I'm bringing this pessimism into the life because I have some fears that I'm protecting myself from, where I get to change, where I get to change this attitude. And I get to change this attitude through awareness. I get to change this attitude by becoming aware of my response, realizing what is happening in front of me. Does this situation requires this kind of response from me? If not, I get to change it. So each time I get to create a little pause. This is what helped me to pause more my life, because I was having this coherence of trauma. I was in a constant trauma response for so many years. For me to be able to separate parts of who I thought I am and to be able to create myself back, I had to pause, to be able to respond, to be able to create a reaction, but not to react. And so, looking at this attitude like that, sometimes in my life, I could bring a change, I could bring a shift, I could bring a different reaction, I could create something different. And throughout the time, the nervous system started to change this protection layer because we always have an attitude towards life. We all need a protection mechanism. Only now I'm available to choose it, to construct it, not to be taken over by the reactions that I used to use in the past and that were saving me. But now I get to choose new ones and to create a new attitude towards life. The attitude that I'm creating right now is based on the essence of who I am because I use contemplation to ask myself, who am I? And based on that, I am creating the attitude towards the life that I want to build for myself. And this means taking each occasion, every single moment of my day to understand what is the attitude that I have towards this thing that is happening right now and how do I want to act on it. Where does this action come from? This is truly important. You get to change the inner environment of who you think you are. If this is something that you can change, that means that it is not yourself. This is the non self. This is something that you are not. It is crucial to change that if you want to go deeper into your life experience and to have much more ease into manifesting. And if you want to break timeline as you know it and to have a different speed when it comes to your manifestations. This inner environment is our innermost identity. When we go through the process of shifting that, we are also dying. This is the experience that the body, the mind, and feelings have when it comes to shifting. It is a death that arises. It is a letting go of something that protected you for years as you shift into a new identity. You must live and let go the old one. And this is where most of us stop because it is truly a difficult process, especially when you don't have the right support around you. To be able to embrace the change of your new identity is to go through your own death and rebirth and to create the new version of who you are in utmost clarity and authenticity. First times when you are going to do this process, it will feel like it's not you. It will feel fake. It will feel not authentic simply because it's true. It's not authentic. You are literally shifting from an inner attitude that protected you the whole life into a new one that is carrying a new version of you. This attitude is crucial because it is the underlining force on which the thoughts, the words, and the actions get to be held by. This attitude aligns us with what is the right energetical match for us. To be able to bring consciousness into this is a very subtle work and it is so crucial when it comes to manifesting whatever you want in your life. Even though it's hard, I highly recommend you go through it. You go through it, and you want to go through it with utmost care and with utmost gentleness. It's very sensitive work, especially for the ones who have been through trauma. And as we cultivate awareness of this process, next times it will be easier to change it. I believe that this identity changes many times throughout life. We will have much more ease in changing this attitude as we grow into the process of doing it. So remember, for you to be able to evolve personally in such a great pace, in the rhythm that is great and right for you, you must pay attention to this attitude. This attitude is the inner environment that sustains your words, your thoughts, your action, everything you think you are, you believe you are. So it's not about who you are or what you're doing, but how you are doing it. And this is what the attitude creates for us, the how.